This is episode 5 of Off the Sidelines Property Podcast. Got my co-host here, Onus.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode, and we've got Big Murray Kennedy with us today from MK Real Estate. So Murray, thanks for joining us today, and I'll get you to introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure, guys. It's Murray Kennedy here. I'm just a real estate agent in the area. Most of my work's out in southwest Sydney, and we've experienced a lot of changes over the last 2 years. Gosh, it's been incredible. But yeah, guys, just got my own company now for the last 8 years, and building a team up to a staff of 14 now, which has been yeah, a lot of gone into that. But no, it's cool. I've been a real estate agent since I was 17, so it's kind of all I know, to be honest, guys. So yeah, thanks so much for having me today on the podcast. Looking forward to doing this. I haven't done any of these before, but as your listeners will learn, I can talk underwater, so I think we might be okay.
and Murray's not just a real estate agent from the area. He's getting a lot of awards at the moment, and the company's smashing some sales results. He's practically the mayor of Narellan at the moment. So do you want to tell us a bit more about the awards and stuff that you just recently won?
Yeah, well, look, it was a good year. I mean, obviously in our area, the sales volume rose a heck of a lot with this boom. We had a lot of people wanting to talk about real estate, which, you know, hasn't always been the case. But gee whiz, in the last 2 years, I think I haven't been to a barbecue where, you know, I haven't been the topic of attention and conversation. Everybody's wanting to know what's happening out there, and you know, whether that's people buying or people selling. But you know, off the back of that, we went from selling, you know, 30, 40 properties a year to, I think I sold 104 in the last 12 months, which all that did was just put me in touch with a heck of a lot more people who want to talk, you know. And then off the back of that, more reviews and more opportunities came through. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a slow process to get to that sort of stage, I think, in real estate. It's not so much a quick fix kind of industry, but you know, this year we've been lucky enough. We won Agency of the Year for Camden at the Local Business Awards. We won Business of the Year too, which was pretty cool. That was unexpected.
Nice.
Lucky I wasn't drinking that night at the awards night when that last award came out. It's kind of like the gold logie, right? It's like the last thing that they announce, and you're thinking, oh yeah, well that's going to go to some big company. And sure enough, when they announced us, I nearly fell over. But
Wow.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, you know, growing any team, you're going to grow your revenue and grow your sales as long as they're, you know, got the same attitudes and your goals align and you're training them well. But yeah, a lot of that success has just come off the increased volume for sales in the southwest Sydney area. I mean, it's become such a hot pocket now for people to be buying in, investing in, and a lot of people have made money in there the last 10 years and looking to cash out and put that somewhere else.
Yeah,
And where are all these buyers coming from? Are they local? Are they from the area? Are they out of the area moving in? Where are they all coming from?
It's been interesting to watch that, because what I've observed and what I've always thought over the years was the way properties grow, the way areas grow. It's a little bit like you know, you put a ring around central Sydney and then those prices increase and get priced out. Those buyers can't buy in those areas anymore, so they draw a ring outside that, maybe an 8K radius, and they look to buy a little bit further out, and then those prices increase, and then buyers get priced out of that and they come out a little further again. It kind of creates this bit of a ripple effect to get out to, you know, the postcodes where I'm working in, you know, being 60 Ks from Sydney. But what it's done with that kind of, you know, ideology, a lot of these buyers getting priced out of areas, you know, like the Inner West or Sutherland or, you know, Cronulla or, you know, the Hills and things like that. They're moving out that little bit further for affordability. So what we experienced out in Narellan, Camden, and that was about, at one stage, I think it was about 100 new families coming into the area every week.
Wow.
I remember the police station understaffed and the fireys all, you know, we couldn't handle this volume. So we weren't really getting a lot of, or the bulk of the audience wasn't local people just that had grown up in the area. because of the prices and what it was just bringing all these other people from outside the place. So many people had never heard of me or never heard of us, and you'd meet them at an open or that sort of thing. But yeah, a lot of growth, coming from those areas where people were getting priced out. Yeah.
And what do you think's the best thing about the area, one, and two, what's it missing and what does it need to really get to the next level?
Geez, they're doing a lot of great things out in our area now. The main focus, I think, the new estates have done, and there's a lot of things they probably haven't done that well, but a lot of people come out here because there's new estates popping up left, right and centre because we've got the land, we've got the space. Not a lot of new land developments, going up in Glebe and stuff like that, I can imagine, right? But the one thing they're doing very well is they're providing these nice little community spaces where you've got kids' play parks, and then you've got, the footy fields, and you've got things to keep families here that they can be entertained and have. I guess they're creating these lifestyles that are attractive, rather than just saying, come out here because it's cheaper than where you want to be.
Yeah.
And in 20 years' time, you might be able to get back to where you want to be, which I think was the old stigma of moving out west, right? That was the whole thing, move out there, save your money, and hopefully buy somewhere else. So,
Northern Beaches or something.
You're
like
right,
that,
yeah. So
Now West is growing quicker than them, and West is best.
yeah, it's popular. it's popular
Drink
because they're
West
building
now,
these lifestyles, and people are saying, hey, you know what, I like it here.
They're building the communities too, so people can create their own community, like your Spring Farms, your Oran Parks, your Cobbitties and stuff like that.
Willowdales and all that kind of stuff.
Honestly, that's probably been one of the most pleasing things for me growing up in my area. It's not the extra traffic, I can tell you that much. That hasn't been all that much fun. I think I've spent half my life on Narellan Road and Camden Valley Way, but just to see how they've changed it and how they put the community first and put people at the forefront of it. I mean, land sizes are getting smaller. That's true. Backyards are getting smaller, but what they are doing right is they're giving these big open spaces not too far for each of these homes to get to. Yeah. So I guess in a way they've been able to make the developments as profitable as possible with the skinnier roads and the smaller blocks, but creating these good spaces where people can come together, your barbecue areas, your play areas and stuff. I mean, Gledswood Hills out in my area now, my sister lives out there with the two kids, and they've got the country club there if you want to go up and watch your sport on the weekends. But then you've got these beautiful big parks and nice walkways, paths, bikes, tracks, all this sort of stuff. And that brings people out here. It's not just about the affordability.
Yeah, and Murray, would you say that ever since COVID started, there's kind of been a shift in the type of houses you're selling? In terms of what people actually want. So there's a movement, this working from home movement, right?
Yeah.
Have you noticed some kind of change there?
Yeah, absolutely. This would be the first time in my 20-year career, or where you're putting ads out with things like Zoom rooms rather than media rooms, or rather than a 6-bedroom house, you're going to list it as a 4-bedroom with a work from home space, or a Zoom. That's been amazing for our area too. Also, just in the sense that if you don't have to commute to work 5 days a week, then you don't have to be living on the corner of your area that you're working in. You can come an extra 40 minutes out.
Yeah.
Get a second story on top of your house. Get an extra 200 metres in your backyard. Get a better kitchen, get a better bathroom, because I think people are realising more and more now that if they don't have to go into work, it just frees up a lot more to make the home. That's where you're spending most of your time now. You can make your home something really, really special. Yeah. And our area is great for that. That's a really good question, because that's been a big thing that I've noticed, that with people not having to go into the office so much more now. I can think of a sale recently just at Harrington Park. I mean, that guy was coming out he's working in the Norwest Boulevard there out in the hills, and he never would have thought of this area.
There you go.
Because he doesn't have to work there. He's only going in 2 days a week, I think.
There you go.
So he's just bought out here, and he said, "Mate, I'd never get something like this for $1 million. It was $150. I'll never get something like that for that price." and it's a single story, nice, beautifully renovated family home. So that's so true, man. That's changed a lot. That's changed a lot.
That's
about.
awesome. That's awesome, man. That's a great observation as well. And now the tide's turning a bit in terms of sales volumes and the market dynamic right now.
Yeah.
And given your experience, you've been through a couple cycles yourself. So if you can shed some light on that and how to help first home buyers and buyers in general also just prepare and brace themselves for what's coming.
Yeah. It's been it is interesting, isn't it? Like this is the first interest rate rise, I think, for 11 years. So many of us just aren't used to what this is like. I mean, I know my parents will go back and tell me all about interest rates at 17.5%, but I think I laugh with my mum and dad. I say back then, you could get, a paddle pop and a property, with your weekend change, they were about 30 grand, but I'm sure it would have been a lot of money back then. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting the way. So it was only last Tuesday that they announced this. I'm pretty certain.
That's right. So they bumped it up, I think, from 0.1% to
3.5, was it?
0.35%.
Yeah.
So that's 25 basis points right there. So
yeah, and I was looking it up, and I think for a $500,000 loan, it's another $24 a week of interest. I think so.
Yeah,
that's that's not going to necessarily harm or hinder the general market, but I think what I found curious, and I think what and like I said, it's only last week, so we're still probably sort of testing the response there from the from the general community. But I think what they've done is they've said, look, here's one, but we may have another 4, 5 or 6 down the track. To me, that's where I think people, in the conversations I'm having each day, that's where a little bit of this fear is coming in. I wonder if they'd have just announced one interest rate rise, would anybody have really, batted an eyelid? But coming out saying, here's one, we may have another 4, 5 or 6. I think there was an article in realestate.com saying we might get 7 more this year. And I thought to myself, well, there's only 7 months left, so that's 1 a month for the next, Yeah. And I think, anytime you're using that sensationalism to create a story, you're going to get a reaction, right? So
correct.
It might be interesting to watch that over the next few weeks and see how people respond. But, I mean, in the first 7 days of that, I think my inquiry of people looking to sell, or at least wanting information about whether it's a good time to sell, went through the roof.
Right.
That was... I went from
increased.
Big time. Yeah, and so that's the first sign of a shift. If the last 18 months, any agent will tell you the last 18 months it's been, what houses have you got coming on? Can I see it before everybody else? I've got this much pre-approved. I'm ready to buy now. And you're taking those calls all day, and you're running around looking for somebody you might want to sell. And you're spending all day doing that. Every resource is, door knocking, phones, flyers, brochures, but all this stuff that you're going to do because you've got the buyers there eating out the palm of your hand. You got to find the stock. In the last 7 days, I'm just hearing most of the calls now. What do you reckon I'll get for my place now? What do you reckon is going to happen in the next 12 months? What do you think is going to come around with the market? Should I sell now? Should I hold off? And I think that's the start of a response. So maybe it hasn't been a knee-jerk reaction, but I think that first rate, people are just going, okay, boom's over, is it? It'll be interesting to see how that unfolds, yeah.
It's a good point. And I also noticed too, like everyone's freaking out about the rate rises and all that sort of stuff, but they don't talk about like the positive data as well. Like at the moment, as Australians, we've got $180 billion in our offset account.
Yeah, thank you.
That's the most money we've had in the history of existence of home loans.
Wow.
So while we've had the pandemic, people have been at home not spending money. Or the only thing they're spending money on is Uber Eats and beers. That's about it.
Yeah, I can attest to that. We're only talking about going to the gym more earlier, right?
And that's what's happening, and everyone's saving all this money. So everyone's actually prepared for this.
Yeah.
So people have either saved more money or they've reinvested, and now they've got more equity.
Yeah.
Then they've got more cash flow.
Yeah, really good point.
But other people have also started side businesses, side hustles.
Oh, yeah.
33% of kids under 18 now have a side hustle or a part-time job.
Yeah, that's cool.
Whereas back in our day, it would have been 3%, maybe maximum 5%. You'd sell eggs or
mowing lawns,
lemonade stands out the front.
Stands and whatnot. That's right.
That's a really that's good to know. I mean, I'm fascinated with all that stuff. I mean, not being an economist or anything like that, but just being interested in it and seeing how those changes sort of come about. But you're right. I mean, people have been staying at home. There hasn't been a lot of places to go. I mean, one thing I've noticed on a real estate agent's side of the fence is just how much people have invested in home improvement and making their property more valuable in that space of time, because you couldn't go on a holiday, you couldn't take off, you just were in your own place, and a lot of people weren't going to work, so you're home all day. And I think people look around and they say, I don't really like this room, I don't like this kitchen. Let's get this pool in that the kids are driving nuts. Let's get them in the, let's do these improvements. And I noticed that was such a big change that everyone that I knew that was in a trade was absolutely flat stick. You couldn't get them. You're trying to sell a house, you wanted to get a painter, you wanted to get a plumber, you wanted to get a carpenter. You couldn't get them for weeks because everybody was, and that reinvesting back into the property, I mean, that's creating better equity again, and I guess that's supporting the comment. But
and that's a good point too. I noticed that there was lineups to my house from Bunnings. They were about 300 metres long during the pandemic, but people created more equity in their house because they did their renos, they did the new pool, they tidied things up and created that equity. But also they don't talk about how most people on average are now 44 months in front of their home loan.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's the most furthest we've ever been in history in front of our home loans. Because again, people weren't going out during the pandemic.
Yeah.
They put an extra $100 a week on their home loan. They're getting money from the government.
Yeah,
and they're just pumping
stimulus. Yeah, you're right.
They're just pumping it back in. But people don't talk about those positive things.
No.
The media scares you with all the prices are going to crash. You're going to get $2 for your house, all this sort of stuff. But there's just so many positive things still happening as well.
That's really good to hear because I mean that's something I can talk to in my when I'm talking about in listing presentations, talking to people about selling, because I don't know if it's going to get perceived that way. I do think that coming out and having one interest rate rise, but then saying there could be another 5 or 6 others, I do think that's going to get a response that's not positive. But I think what will happen for buyers now is they'll be a little bit more, maybe not patient, but a little bit more savvy as to which properties are the ones to buy, because it'll suddenly become obvious. We've just come in a market where if you wanted to buy a property in Camden or you wanted to buy a property in Narellan, if you had 2 to choose from, it was a good week. It was literally, this is the one. We'd run the open home, you'd get 40 groups through it. And it was an absolute, everything was an auction without calling it an auction, whether it was an auction or not an auction. And most things that were an auction never made it to auction. So we just had this market, where a first home buyer, probably didn't feel like they had a voice, probably didn't feel like they had time to think, or it was just act. And what'll be interesting now to see when more properties start to enter the market is the ones that are priced properly are still going to experience everything like that. The sellers are going to be fine. But there'll be a lot of sellers, and there always is in every market, where they're trying to get yesterday's money tomorrow. And that will be telling for buyers, because buyers will be going to some of these open homes and there might be 17 groups at one of them. And they'll go to another one, there might be 2.
Yeah.
It'll be the evidence for them to make an intelligent, informed decision they won't be relying on making that decision themselves. It'll be obvious for them. They'll be able to say, look, this is the one I need to buy. This one looks right. This one's where everybody is. And, that sort of, that's going to be telling. And I think you'll see properties not selling the first week, second week, third week, fourth week, making an adjustment in price to, reflect it, they to try and catch the audience again. And all that will create is then the buyer feels that little bit of power shift coming back. Hey, if they've dropped here 50, maybe I can get it down a little. So there's a lot of this strategy that's going to come up in a market that most agents have got no idea or experience with. We had a market drop 2018, and people have got a little bit of an idea of what a falling market looked like then, but this will be interesting. There's a lot of strategy that's going to come up now. That's old skills that will be relearned, I think. Yeah. So.
And in terms of, we were talking earlier about the first home buyer grants and that sort of stuff, and we talked about now that area goes up to 900,000.
Yeah.
What suburbs do you think would be best for first home buyers, the 20 to 30 year olds, around that 900k mark?
Yeah, great question. And how good it is that it is at 900,000 now, because, I mean, at 800,000 there just wasn't a lot. A lot there to buy.
Well, it was 7, and then it's 8, and now it's 9.
Yeah,
so,
it's just
yeah,
and it has to be, right, because that's just how, that urban sprawl, like we talked about earlier. It's just going to keep making this area more and more in demand. I just think, going to 900,000 now changes the game a little bit. You can get, I think at 800 you were pigeonholed to an old 3-bedroom, 1 bathroom, 1 garage place. This is at a maximum. Obviously you've got terraces, townhouses, villas, duplexes, all that kind of units and all that stuff coming in at the lower rate. But the best you could look for up to 800 would have been an old, maybe semi-run down or partially renovated 3-bedroom, 1 bathroom, 1 garage place. And if it wasn't that, it would have been a nice home, just what would you say, the best house in the worst street, that sort of style of buy.
Yep.
Which kind of goes against that old real estate adage of you want to buy the worst house in the best street and do it up, I suppose. So,
yeah,
this going up to 900 now can maybe get somebody a second bathroom. It can maybe get somebody a double garage. It can maybe get somebody a bit more backyard, or it might just get them into some of the more affluent suburbs at the entry level, and just make that first step. The first step's the hardest step, but it just might make it that little bit more manageable for people. I think that's a great idea. And what is it again? You get 5% deposit.
Yes.
And you avoid LMI if you give 5%.
So if you bought a house for 900,000 and you had, say, a 5% deposit normally, and you had to pay LMI, you're probably looking at anywhere from 20 to 30k insurance.
Fair dinkum. Yeah, right. Okay.
So now the government said, hey, we'll back you and we'll go guarantor for that other 15%.
Yeah.
So then you'd only need to come up with a 45 deposit instead 5%. Of 70 for that.
And stamp duty would be on 900 about 36,000. So
and then you would need So if you had essentially 80 to 90k, you could get away comfortably to buy something for 900.
That's cool. Yeah.
Most people think for something 900 you'd need 180 plus stamp duty.
Yeah, 100%.
200 plus.
Yeah.
So you can get in for 85 to 90 with these new schemes.
That's really encouraging for first home buyers in our area at the moment. That's cool. And that comes into effect in June, is that right?
1st of July.
1st of July. And
the new grants will come out for the 900,000. But also, if people have family members that have equity or can give them a gift or something as well to help them out. There's so many other ways to get into the market these days. You just got to speak to your local expert.
That's right.
I don't think that knowledge is there.
The bank of mum and dad as well.
The bank of mum and dad. I don't think that knowledge is there for enough young people, I mean, us agents, we're normally dealing with people a couple of steps ahead along the line, that they'll come to us ready to buy, or they'll come to us pre-approved, or they've already spoken to a broker, because it's that old one where you fill up your grocery, your trolley full of groceries, and then you get to the checkout and you're like, where's my wallet? Have I got it? You normally have your wallet on you before you go to the shop. So a lot of these buyers are coming already with an idea of a pre-approval to us, but I don't reckon there would be enough first-home buyers that know just how many things are available to them to get them into the market. And it's funny, people always say, well, is now a good time? Is now a good time to is now a good time to buy? Is now a good time to sell? Is now a good time to do anything? And I think if you took any time, if you went back a decade at a time in any stage in our lives, properties are worth more now than they were the 10-year prior. I don't think there's any other real examples where it's been the other way. So, the answer is always buy when you can buy, and buy now, because time in a market is always better than timing a market. The longer you're in it, the better your outcome. You're going to do it. So this puts people into it sooner. Yeah, over time, I think that's going to put them in good stead and put them in front.
And I like that adage you use there, because a lot of people get short-sighted and they try to time these markets and focus on interest rates and all these other things. But as you said, time in a market definitely beats timing the market. And I just want to get your commentary on the upcoming election and how that kind of plays into effect with markets and that whole buyer and seller dynamic there. Like, are people more willing to put their properties on the market before election time, or what are you finding, mate? Is it slowing down for you?
It's this bloody stalemate and I've been, had I wouldn't say the pleasure, but I've observed this over the years, the last 2 decades of watching elections come and go. Ultimately, there's this stalemate for a couple of weeks where buyers aren't sure what's going to happen, sellers aren't sure what's going to happen, and everybody just keeps their money under the bed for a week or two.
Yeah.
And the TV is on it. And all your other, places where people are getting their information, it's all about the election. And then that stops one day. And everybody just kind of goes, so we just get on with it again? And it just starts to happen again. It doesn't ever seem to make anything change overly significantly, but it's something that everybody just sort of watches for a moment. So there's just this period of a stalemate. It also doesn't help too, because you get a lot of I find it's typically like an old neighbour or something like that that'll say to somebody, well, you just wait until the other mob get in, mate. It's going to be, this will happen, and back when this happened, I'll tell you what, you'll be, you'll be saving up to weigh yourself. You won't be able to go anywhere, or you wait till this other mob get back in, or his ideas, he's going to ruin this and he's going to ruin that, and everybody just sits here and goes, oh my God, like this is scary. And then about a week or two after that washes over and everyone just goes, oh, so nothing really changed? Okay, well, yeah, so what's on the market? Like, it's just going to, I've seen that happen so many times, but yeah, so I wonder if it'll happen again the same way. I don't know. I don't really know what our generation and under are doing, whether people are taking more interest in politics or less interest in politics. I seem to be a little bit desensitised to it myself, because I just find one side of it will, rather than focus on the good things they're going to do, they're just going to tell you all the bad things the other guys are going to do. And then when he gets his turn with the ball, he's just going to tell you what the other guy's going to do. That's awful.
Back and forth.
I'd rather just hear what both sides have got to do and what they've got to offer. And
what are you going to do? When you're going to do it by?
Yeah,
and that's it.
Yeah, and then let me make a decision on what
get an app out or something like that, and we can pick what policies we like.
Yeah, imagine a real estate agent just going, "Oh, thanks for getting me over, mate. Let me tell you all about myself. Don't go with these guys; they're rubbish. Don't go with them; they're terrible. They'll sell your house half price, but go with me." It
doesn't make sense.
It just sounds cheap. It just looks rubbish, right?
Intuitive.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see over the next couple of weeks. I think the main factor that's in front of us now, that's going to be something that we're going to watch closely, is just the talk of these rates going up and people getting their head around that. And like I said, it's only been it's only been a week really since this has come about. So. I think the impact of that is not quite there yet for us. But we sold 3 houses on the weekend that were all over $1 million. One in Kearns for $1.45, one in Eldersley for 1.33, and one in that'll do me. Where was the third one? Oh no, it wasn't over $1 million. It was 901 in Eagle Vale. So
that's nice.
Yeah, really, really nice house, 4-bedroom, 2-bath. And talking about what we were talking about before, about like the COVID kind of how that's changed how people buy.
Yeah.
This guy set up a home office in his backyard out of like a little pop-up studio thing that's got aircon, a sink, a toilet, and just a home office.
Oh, wow. Beautiful.
Yeah, because he's like, when I'm in my house, I'm watching TV, I'm talking to my kids and stuff, right? Yeah. But if I'm out there in me office, then I can get the work done. So yeah, that's and that actually attracted buyers, because they're thinking the same thing. I can run a business from home, and so
there you go.
That's changed big time. That was that's a really good point. If you can provide a way for somebody to safely set up from home, whether it's, a lot of people do it a different way. They'll do it in a garage, and I think for sellers, if you put a home office in a garage, well, you strengthen a weakness, you weaken a strength. You don't actually have, because you lose a garage or one side of it when you put the studio in. So right. You're robbing Peter to pay Paul when you do it that way. But if you can come up with something in the backyard or something like this, you're offering, you're adding value, right? Yeah.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Off the Sidelines Property Podcast with Onis Ansari and Daniel Peachy. To listen to part 2 and gain more knowledge from this awesome interview, tune in next week for another episode of Off the Sidelines Property Podcast.